What's going on, everybody? Simple back at it like I'm checking my height. Today, we are checking out how the Netherlands pays tribute and celebrates the Canadian veterans, our brothers in arms to the north. We've checked out a little bit of Margotten, how the Dutch have kind of memorialized U.S. soldiers that fought. So, like I said, now we're going to check out a little bit about our brothers in the arms to the north. If you guys enjoy this, make sure you head on over and check out the Content Creators channel. Shout out to Monique. I can't remember if I just shouted you out or not. Shout out again to Monique, though, for this one. If you guys want to get your requests up here as well, make sure you check out the Google form down in the description below. Definitely make sure you head up to Creative Consortium. All right, let's go.
The Netherlands in the spring. Beautiful. Flowers in full bloom, parks pristine, streets spotless. It's a far cry from what the same spots were like 70 years ago. The Germans
Only
had
70
leveled the
years.
cities, murdered those who got in the way,
Is that what they're saying?
and sent tens of thousands
Yeah.
of Jews to be
70
gassed
years.
in death camps.
That's crazy.
The
even to
Dutch
think
who were
about
left
that.
were
Like, I
starving
don't know.
after the 5 years of brutal Nazi occupation. By 1945, they were so hungry, some were eating tulip bulbs to stay alive.
The starved, rickets-ridden bodies of this Dutch family are
The
witnesses
hint
the
to
treatment
Tulip
the
Mania?
Germans meted out to our friends
We
in
still haven't checked that video out yet.
That's when the Canadians arrived, blasting their way into towns like this one, Apeldoorn, crushing the Nazis, liberating the people. The Dutch have never forgotten, never.
And they don't either. That's the thing.
This week,
That's all
they'll
I
be
can
in
say
these
about that
streets
right
again
there.
by the
They don't
thousands
forget.
to welcome back some of those Canadians now in their 90s.
And it's
who gave them
amazing
their
how
country,
they
their
memorialize
lives back.
things, and how they pay respects.
I've been coming here for 20 years, never ceasing to be amazed at the Dutch.
It's an honor to know our
determination
soldiers have found
to say
home there.
Thank you.
It truly is.
This
And it's
street with its
amazing to
pennants
see
and
how you
Canadian
guys
flags
pay
is
respects.
representative of many
It
streets
blows
across
me
the
away every
Netherlands
time.
right now, as the Dutch mark the major contribution that Canada played in the liberation of their country half a century ago.
I'm very young. I only heard stories from my grandfather and grandmother. But yes, they freed us 50 years ago, so that's why I'm here.
I think it's a love affair between the Canadians and the Dutch.
Well, 60 years is an awfully long time, but not long enough for
60
the Dutch to forget the pain,
See, I'm
the
horrible at
loss,
math
the
for those who
suffering,
don't know.
and the oppression
Brain
of
injury.
living under Nazi rule
Car accident
all those
sucked.
years during the Second World War. And not long enough either to forget the liberation and those who brought it to them.
It's a beautiful day. This is out of this world.
I'm feeling liberated.
107,000 people left this place on the trains destined for the death camps of Nazi-occupied Europe. 102,000 of them perished in those camps. On days like this, the Dutch come to remember what happened here more than 65 years ago.
The camp life was dominated by the train. The train was taking away 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 prisoners. And you
That's
pray
incredible.
being not on the list.
That's horrible.
Why do they never forget? Just listen to some of the stories we've heard over the years.
And I said, do you eat that every day? Sure. You want some? I'll give you a whole loaf. A whole loaf of white bread. I ran to the house and I planted it on the breakfast table and I said, here, look at it. Canadians are here.
Look at this street sign in an Apeldoorn suburb. If the name looks Canadian, it's because it is. A dozen streets in this neighborhood are named after one of the almost 8,000 Canadians who never came home from the battle.
See what I mean? they memorialize so many different countries, people. It's beautiful.
What was it about
I
those
can't thank
young
you guys
men who,
enough.
through the generations, the
It
Dutch
just
won't
it means
stop
so much,
thanking?
honestly.
Who were those guys?
George Beale was one of them, a major with the 48th Highlanders. Every few days he'd stop and write a letter home to his wife, Ruth, in Toronto. This is one of them. Here's what he said. My own darling, I haven't written you for 5 days. I didn't feel much like it, sweetie, as we were fighting again, and I was awfully busy, and we've been having a tough fight. At the moment, I'm sitting in a city called Apeldoorn, and the Queen's Palace is within 100 yards of me. That's the Queen's Palace, right over there. We're about 100 yards from it. He might have been right here. We entered the town proper this morning after a big advance from the Isle River. I'm fine, Ruth, so don't worry, although I'm very tired. The enemy's running like the devil again, and we have to chase him.
The fighting was bloody, and the dying. But through it all, George wrote to Ruth about the love he had for his men.
He wrote this one on Sunday, April 22nd. I have fought and lived with those men for over a year, and to me they seemed as though they were part of my family. They never refused to go any place I ordered, and did everything I asked them to, cheerfully and willingly, knowing most of the time that I might be sending them to their deaths.
It's brotherhood, though.
There
That's
were
why
lots
you
of
join.
individuals.
You join for the cause. There is one cause at certain times. You know, sometimes you don't see what it is at the point, but that's not the point. It's about the brotherhood.
Canadian heroes here, Army men like George Beale, but Air Force flyers too.
50 years ago, these fields near Nistelrode in southeastern Holland were home base for a Royal Canadian Air Force Spitfire squadron. One of those Canadian pilots was a 22-year-old chap from Lethbridge, Alberta, whose name was Richard Odette. Well, near the end of December 1944, Odette had flown more than 50 missions. But up until that point, he had scored no German kills. Well, on the 29th of December, 1944, all that changed. When Richard Odette flew out of one of these fields, he flew right into the history books. Before he returned, he had shot down 5 German aircraft. No other Canadian pilot, no other British pilot had scored that many victories in one mission.
Wow.
Meanwhile, frontline fighters broke through to capture key strategic
I mean, it's not like it was back, nowadays. It's not as easy to target and to fire back then. Like, people think about planes and lock-on systems and stuff like that. You didn't have that. You know what I mean? You're flying by the wire, and you're flying gunning. It was a much different situation. I definitely encourage people who don't know about it to look it up. For sure.
All this was happening as the Nazis were facing their final desperate days, until that last moment when the fighting and the dying suddenly stopped. 70 years ago this week, the war ended.
And here's what George Beale wrote to Ruth on that same day. You can feel the emotion in his voice. Darling, you couldn't possibly have any idea just what kind of a reception it has been and still is. The people go simply mad. And I had the honor, darling, of being the leading vehicle, my Jeep. Any town we went through, the people crowded the roads, and we had a most difficult time getting past them. They all want to touch your hand or even kiss you, and they simply pelted us with flowers. My Jeep looked like a florist shop. It does make all the hardships worthwhile when you see the joy of these liberated people.
Makes it all worth it. Especially when there's a cause.
For this year's returning heroes, new medals from the local mayor.
Your memories, your thoughts guide us as we shape our future.
And new thoughts about an old battle.
Well, I was stationed here during the war as a Canadian Women's Army Corps, which I'm very proud of. And it brings back so many memories. And I always have a place in my heart for Holland, for Apeldoorn.
It's a great, great day, you know. For the little thing we did, we get so much, 1,000 times more.
He says for the little thing we did.
The Dutch people are the best
How
people
humble.
in the world, and I mean it.
Wageningen just down the road from Apeldoorn, in that little building. That's where the Germans finally surrendered. These extraordinary pictures capture the moment.
To the Commander-in-Chief, 21 Army Group. These forces to lay down their arms and to surrender unconditionally.
And there at the table, Canadian General George Kitching, distinguished then and just as distinguished when I chatted with him at the same table 50 years later. How do you feel when you come back in this room?
It's almost as if they're ghosts, as if you are the German on the opposite side of the table, Peter. It was full of people then. Any movement, it was a very quiet room. And in spite of the fact that there were 30 Canadian reporters, they were quiet.
The general is gone now, and so are many of the men who fought with him. But the ones who are left, the ones who still come, the ones the Dutch, young and old, still so adore, are here with their memories. The ones that hurt, the ones that leave them quiet, and the ones that somehow make them smile.
I've never felt that I sacrificed anything to be part of a liberating army.
There were so many Canadians who lost their lives here in the Netherlands. How did you handle that on a day-to-day basis?
I put it out of my mind altogether, but nonetheless I cry when I go to the cemetery and see my friends' graves.
I never learned to cry. You just feel it inside.
What does it mean to you guys to be remembered the way you are here in this country, the way they look at you, the way they react to you?
It's 70 years ago that we were here, but still, the kids are still enthusiastic about what we did here 70 years ago, and I love to see kids the way they greet us and the way they look in such admiration at us, you know.
Really, it was something to feel the happiness, the joy of the liberation.
I asked the people I was staying with, what is this touching bit, you know? They asked permission to touch you, and I couldn't get over that, so they want to touch a liberator, and they want their children to touch a liberator.
You're like a superhero.
20 years ago, I asked the then
Truly
mayor
are a
of
superhero.
Apeldoorn why it was that the Dutch never forgot the Canadians. His answer was very simple, very direct. He said, you have to have been occupied to appreciate what freedom really means. And when you do, you never forget who gave it to you.
That is
That's why
extremely
Canada
true.
is never forgotten here. Never.
That is extremely true. It's very true. That was a beautiful video about respect and honor. It was something that, I don't know, I feel like more places should be like that. And if there are, and you guys want to check them out, let me know about it. If you guys want to check out a more history between Canada and the Netherlands, then definitely let me know that as well. I am down to check out some history. If you guys enjoyed this one, let me know down in the comments. Hit me with a thumbs up, and if not, it's all love. I appreciate you guys for stopping by anyway. Make sure you smash the crap out of that thumbs down button. Check out one of the other two videos, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.